don't think Jorma recognizes me.
She's been running, she has been to many camps as well.
How are you?
Been a long time.
Good to see you. Good to be seen.
Good to be seen.
We missed that foot piece food.
Right, since you mentioned it,
I don't know.
you got these two gals in the kitchen this year. I know it's Sunday, but I'm gonna say it bad.
Once you get sick.
Really? Wow.
Tough to keep my girls figured
How's your guitar? Just you broke.
The guitar, yeah, well,
That was wonderful.
there's a part in the thing where you just go boom, dun, 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 right? And I've done it ever since I wrote the song. I wrote the song on that guitar. And about 2 weeks or 3 weeks ago, I was playing a show in the same spot. Boom, everything just stopped. And the only thing that was working was the microphone. So I played the rest of the show with this guitar, as I will now for a while. And what I did is, when I got home, I swapped out the under saddle pickup, and I unplugged everything, cleaned it, and I plugged it all back in, put it to get the strings on it, and it sounded perfect, worked perfectly. I said, great, I fixed it, right? So then last night, same thing, bang, it's gone. All the sound is gone. So I'm going to have to put a new one of these in my main, which will take all of 3 minutes. That's what these guitars are like. Everything just screws, and you unscrew it, take it out, put a new one in, screw it in, plug in, and away you go. It's easy. So that's the one great thing that I like, is that if something happens, I've got spares, and you just unscrew it, new one in, put the thing back on, and away you go. You know, you don't have to have a soldering iron or an electronics genius, just put it in there. It's total user-friendly. Yeah.
So, do you not have a guitar tech? You do all your stuff yourself?
I don't want no stinking guitar tech. If I could afford one, I'd probably have one and think I was pretty fabulous walking around with someone else tuning my guitar. I don't want people touching my guitar. I want to tune it. I want to put the strings on. I want to know that when I walk out on stage, I can depend on that all my guitars are in tune, the strings sound good, I've sound checked it, I know what's going on, it's not, I've had some guitar techs that, handed me a guitar on stage, and I could have tuned it better with sausages in my ears. So I don't need that kind of help yet, I don't know. What do you think, in 10 years maybe I might be...
Myron, you're out of work, buddy.
He's an exception.
Myron and I have been together for almost 20 years.
Oh.
Now he'll tell you, I like to string my acoustic guitars. I need to do that.
Yeah.
I hate stringing electric guitars. When I'm playing electric, he's more than welcome, especially the ones that have Bixby tailpieces.
Oh, yeah, geez, yeah. Okay.
But yeah, no, I hear you. No, I need to touch the strings myself.
But there's something bonding and wonderful about putting strings on your guitar, like I did this morning. At 7 a.m. I was up stringing this guitar, making sure that everything was cool with it, right? And so there it is. I like being able to do that, because then I know it's the best I can get it. And the problem for me last night was that I didn't have a second guitar that was exactly the same as the number one, with the same tuning. But the way I planned the show out was that the other guitars were, one was a low tuning, one was a baritone, this one was G6 tuning. So those things are part of the repertoire of what you're going to play, right? So it's a whole different ballgame. Jorma's repertoire is in here, and he's gonna sing and do all that. So he's totally living in the free world. He's totally free of everything. When I want to play certain songs, I have to have a certain guitar with a certain tuning. So I put a lot of effort into making all that stuff perfect. So when I do have to do a guitar change, that I pick up the guitar, plug it in, and I go straight into the song. There's no messing around tuning. Let me say this, brothers and sisters, it really annoys me when an artist, we're all excited to see this artist or this band, and the lights go down, the crowd comes up, they walk out, and they hardly acknowledge the audience, and they look down and check their tuning. They walk on stage, and the first thing they do is check their tuning. How shitty is that? You know what I mean? I don't see that as I'm excited to be here to play for you. I see that as I want everything perfect. You know what I mean? And it's to me, it's unprofessional. You should have spent time tuning, and you should be able to walk out there, plug in, and go, here we are, baby, boom. You know, that's what I think. So that's why I spend time tuning before the show, and that tuning gives me a calmness as well. So, you know, like, remember what I was telling you on the first day, when people say to me, how do you get pumped up for a show? And I was like, you don't want to be pumped up for a show. You want to be calm, and you don't want your brain racing, your heart pumping and all that, because you can't play well. So tuning, spending time tuning and listening, puts you in that zone and puts you quiet. Is that right? Is that what you do?
God, I hope my guitar's in tune today. Myra and I were talking about this on the way over this morning. You're a consummate showman also. You know, you could have nowhere near the talent and expertise that you have, and you still put on a great show because that's what you do. Of course, you're Tommy Emmanuel, so you've got all that other stuff going on too. I mean, but the thing is, you're such a consummate showman. I totally get that. You know, for me, and I was thinking about it last night, if we're doing a show where I'm doing my own show, I write songs and tunings, but I don't really play other tunings. I just really know this one. So I have two of these flaming guitars, and I'll put the other one, and I'll craft my set in whatever tuning, or you know, if it needs a capo, etc. Last night that wasn't the case, so I apologize for the fact that I had to tune a couple times.
But, you know, there's also something to be said for, sometimes it's nice when someone's talking and then they just kind of spend a minute and get into that tuning, and it's part of the story.
But the other thing also too, and Myra and I talk about this also, and I'm sure everybody in your class this session knows this. You're a really special guy. I mean, aside from the fact that we're friends, you're the only guy like you that I know. Your ability, or your sense of pitch, all this kind of stuff. Not everybody's got that, you know. I mean, so yeah. I mean, I'm watching you do this. I'd be sitting here and all that kind of stuff. Anyhow, so you've got a lot of good stuff going on. You've got a lot of good mojo. Now I've got a son that plays, and at one point, and he has the talent, but he doesn't have the passion for that stuff. And I go, so do you want to learn how to tune like that? And he goes, no, Dad, I got a tuner. He goes, what happens if the battery goes dead? He says, you'll tune it for me. Maybe you'll tune it for me.
Well, I feel that tuning is such an important thing, because everything we do is exposed. And if the tuning's bad, it should be bothering you. You know, if I'm out of tune, my world goes upside down until I get in tune, you know? And it can be fairly close. And I've had people say, it didn't sound out of tune to us, you know, but to me it did. And I knew it was just like my fourth string was a fraction sharp, just a fraction. And it's driving me insane, you know what I mean? And that's how I am, you know? Because if I play a chord like you, I may want to do I may want to play something like that, and it's got to be it's got to be as good as Frank Sinatra. You know what I mean? It's got to be on that level. If it isn't, then I'm not happy. I'm happy when it's all, everything's how it should be and I can be expressive. If it's not perfect, then we have to stop and we have to get it that way. That's how I am. I can tell you a million times that I've just plugged on because I had no time to tune in the middle of something complicated. But in general, because I restring, you know how to stretch your strings in so they stay in tune. You know the amount of windings that you want to put on here, all that, you know how, it's physics, folks, it's science, that's what it is. And once all this is settled in, people are always amazed. They say, how long do you wait before a show? I can change a set of strings and in 5 minutes go do a show and have no tuning problems because I know how to stretch them in, that's it. It's just common sense, But every guitar I pick up, the first thing I do is play a chord and grab a string and feel it, and it'll be flat, So people haven't stretched the string in properly. And that causes the guitar to feel the pressure of the string down, and then you get the best out of the instrument. That's what I think. Yes, sir?
The way you beat on your guitar, it seems like you would have relatively high action. But when you just strum it here, it seems like it's kind of low to my ear.
Well, I like look, playing the guitar is hard enough as it is. Why make it harder by having a high action? I want to make it as comfortable as possible.
So yours is pretty low?
So yeah, I look down the neck. If it's not straight, it's going to be when I get to it, Because, luthiers, people who build guitars who are not players like us, they'll build it and they'll tell you, well, tradition tells us there has to be some relief in the neck. Not in my guitars. I don't want relief because it makes it hard for you to do anything intricate. Or, say if I'm playing a tune where I've got to play, I've got to play harmonics and all that sort of stuff, and I've got to hold that position strongly for a period of time. I don't want to be fighting the pressure that's coming off the action just because you're trying to get the guitar louder. You know what I mean? So I just turn the pickup up to 10 and the mic up to 10 and keep the neck real straight. And so I've got a bigger sound, but I'm not fighting the instrument to try and get clarity.
So you're not worried about buzzing a little bit? You're not worried about buzzing a little bit?
All my guitars buzz.
I thought I heard some like on the
When
low
I
E.
play them, they don't. I'm just so used to it.
That's a really good point too, because the guitar is such a personal instrument, and there's just so many ways to skin that cat. I mean, again, Myron, my assistant, who you don't have right now, but you need him, Myron. No, we talk about this stuff all the time. I mean, we can hand this guitar around to different people, and the way you hold the fret, the way your calluses are shaped, all that stuff, it makes a difference, makes a huge difference.
Absolutely. Should we play that Trouble in Mind song?
We shall.
Let's do it.
Should I tell them a quick story about
Please
this?
do.
So my buddy, some of you guys know some of my other stuff that I do. My buddy Jack Cassidy, we played together since 1958. So anyway, so when I started fingerpicking in 1960, I went to New York and hung out and did all that stuff that we did back then with Phillips and all that stuff, when the world was young. And in any case, so I came back and I was going back to the Philippines. My dad was stationed there, and Jack recorded all these songs that I did and put them in a tape and put it away. And so last year he got it out and baked the tape and did all this stuff. And I listened to all these songs that I recorded. I've been playing for like 4 months already.
That's all.
Holy mackerel, In any case, I was closer to my source back then also. So I heard this version of Trouble in Mind and went, I'm going to relearn that thing. So I learned a version of it that I learned, I don't know, a long time ago.
Wow.
Love this turnaround. Trouble in mind, I'm blue. won't be blue always. I said the sun gonna shine in my back door someday. Baby gone, she's gone, won't be always. I said the sun gonna shine in my back door. Take a walk by the river. Take my rocking chair. Don't leave me right away from here. Take a walk by that lonesome railroad line. That tonight's special satisfy my troubled mind. Troubled mind, well, won't be blue always. I said the sun gonna shine in my back door. You know the sun gonna shine in my back door. I said the sun gonna shine in my back door someday.
Yes, sir?
I have a question, just with having a repertoire as deep as you both have, how do you decide on a given evening what songs you're gonna put in your show?
We only just worked out, we've never played these things before. That's really, I heard the song 5 minutes before you came in.
But like last night, how do you decide what you're gonna put in, or what Jorma, what you're gonna put in after 50 or 60 years of
So,
playing?
yeah, that's a really good question for anybody that's gonna play out, whether it's an open mic or whatever. I look at a set like a song, the dynamics of the song, but it's mutable. A lot of it depends on the audience, you know. I'm sure Tommy never plays bars anymore, but I do. And so if you're in a bar and you have an audience that's not really tuned into what you're doing, then it's not that you cater to the lowest common denominator and just play loud stuff, because you can't fight an audience. But I play different stuff. I mean, maybe a little more up-tempo things. So it depends on the situation. So I'll do a set list, before I get to the gig. And then as things begin to evolve, like I changed my setup a little bit last night too, and then I just let it go with the flow. And the audience becomes part of my environment. The environment is so important, when you play, in terms of how the guitar sounds in any given room. Like, thanks for inviting me to the Ryman last night. That's an unbelievable environment on stage. I can't even begin to describe it. And the sound that you hear back from the house it's like, it's just unbelievable anyway. So it invites a lot of different things. And the audience is there to listen, not to fool around. So that's cool too. So yeah, whatever, the environment is everything, and I cater to that.
Will you change your set list if you feel the audience isn't responding to?
Up to a point, unless they make me mad, I'm gonna take the heck with you attitude. But yeah, I mean, really, our job up here is not to invite you into the canyons of our mind every night, because we're entertainers also. So you want people to have a good time. So if I'm in a place where they're not going to be listening to a slow blues like that, I'm not going to play a slow blues. Yeah, it's environment again.
Yeah. Well, I find that I'm reminded often that don't forget that when you were young, you were playing places where you had to hit people over the head with everything you had, solid, for hours on end to make a living and to get people's attention. But in those days when I'd leave a gig and I'm driving home thinking, oh, to hell with this, these people are so noisy, they're not listening, but it's all because I knew where I belonged. I knew I was a concert player. I just didn't have a clue how I was going to get there. You know what I mean? But I knew that. That was my vision for where I belong. So where I played last night is like a dream come true for a person like me. Because when I played all those bars and places where I had to play loud, fast, hard, and bullshit, really, just to try and make a living, I knew that this was just a stepping stone, and I would calm myself down and say, don't worry, you know where you belong, how are we going to get there, that kind of thing. So then building a show, it takes a long time for artists like us to find where all our strengths are, and then, make our show have a dynamic. So we come out of the gate and get your attention straight away. Then we start getting you on the edge of your seat, and then we do something to make you sit back and almost close your eyes and just trust us with what we're doing. You know what I mean? And then from then on, you're ours. From then on, you just trust what we're doing. And it takes a long while to build a repertoire that you can do that with. So there you go.
The other thing too, before you get that, is when I hear you and your show, what I think I do mine is we're telling a story also. And the story's not just in each song, it's sort of like an overall thing. And guys like you and me, I don't learn a lot of new stuff, but I do. Every now and then I write. I'm not a tinsmith, but I write songs occasionally and stuff like that. But I'm so fortunate that people allow me to tell that story over and over again, because it's a story. That's part of the building the set also.
Right. Yeah. Well, I remember when that album
Blue Country Heart.
When that came out, that was a significant album for me to discover what you were about, because it was a bit more country and there were more stories. You know what I mean?
Oh, totally. Yeah.
And I thought that was the right thing to do at that time in your life. I mean, to me, it looked like things lined up for you with that album.
That's one of those things that the guy that, we actually, back in those days, we actually had an A&R guy, remember those guys?
Yeah, but,
And he goes, if you had a dream album, what would it be? And I said, I'd like to do songs from essentially white musicians from that Depression period.
exactly.
And I wanted to play with the guys that I played with. And he goes, well, I think we can do that.
How about
And
that?
when we did that, we weren't allowed, I wasn't allowed to share the songs we were gonna do. I picked the songs, but he wouldn't share them with the other guys, and we didn't rehearse at all. We just didn't want to cut that line.
Because that song that just touched me so much the first time I heard it, what was it? A Better Way. The kind of old folk sing-along type song.
Oh, gosh. I can't remember what I had for breakfast.
Anyway, yeah.
It's a good record, though.
It's a great record, and that's the thing about that, is that was an important part of your journey as an artist, but those songs were an important part of the repertoire.
Yeah.
In those times, and I feel myself that I have a lot to draw on, and what do I want to play? But I feel the necessity to play things where I'm really pushing the envelope a lot, because it's too easy to just say, well, they all know me, they know what I can do. I think I'll just have fun and do, sorry, you can't do that.
Right.
I can't allow myself to just say, well, I just want to play a few tunes and have some fun, and I can't charge people top dollar to come into a beautiful theater with great sound and lights and all that, and then mess around. I've got to give it everything I got every time, and that's a responsibility to me, But I build parts into my show where I can totally just play and tell a story and take my time. Like when I played Lewis and Clark last night, that one I didn't announce it, I didn't say anything, I just went into it. And there was immediately this hush that happened. And I think 3/4 of the audience knew exactly what that song was. So I didn't feel like I had to make a big deal about it. I just wanted to tell the story and take my time. So I did that, And I'm sure it's the same when people want to hear something they really know is connected to you, that somewhere in the show you might just go straight into it and you'll hear people light up. You know what that is. That's your connection to them.
There's a flip side to that coin too. Jack and I do. Yeah, exactly, and that's my point. So Hesitation Blues, great song, and we have right there. And we do that. It's a cheap shots, 16 count finger picking break thing, and we've done it a long time. It's kind of become a thing. But now playing the stage, and thank you for applauding. I appreciate that. So you guys do the song, get a round of applause. So we're playing a folk festival in Winnipeg, in Canada, about a decade ago. I never go to Canada. And we go into the song, we blaze into that thing, and at the end, nothing. Nothing. Don't they realize that we're used to getting applause for this one? Nothing. Zero.
I can believe it. Someone put their hand up.
I wanted to go back to your stretching technique without loosening your strings. Can you verbally describe your 5-minute stretch?
Breaking the strings and we put a set of strings on.
Putting strings on?
Stretching.
Oh, stretching. Oh,
I'm not
okay.
asking you to unstring your guitar. I'm just saying, can you verbally describe your method?
Just
You
describe the
can
method.
verbally describe your method.
Your method for breaking in your
Yes.
string.
Okay.
I lay mine down like that.
Yeah. He does that. Okay, so you cut the string off, put the new one in, and as you push the peg down, you pull the string out, boom, like that, and you make sure that there's no give in it. Put it through the hole until it's about there, right? So you're holding it through the hole. I put the string through the hole and then I go boom and I bend it on an angle so it doesn't move.
Me too.
Right? So yeah, so now I'm about here. Now I take the string and I put my finger push the string down there and start
Just
winding
behind the, right behind the nut?
behind the nut,
Got it, okay.
so that the windings pull down, right? That's the important thing. If the windings go up, the string vibrates in an unnatural way, and it'll never do what it's designed to do for you. You've got to have pressure. The way the guitar works is pressure here and pressure here, right? And then we're in the middle of all this. So we've got to get pressure, we've got to pull down on the string there. So I bring the thing up to pitch, right? Give it, and I take it like this. I go hold the string and pull it like that. I pull it off the fretboard and stretch it, right? Right. Cut, and then I stretch again. Stretch here like this. Up here again, stretch, and then I do this. I grab the string and go. Right, and what that does is my hand's heating it up. It's going to stretch a little, and you when you play it through the tuner, you'll see it'll be flat, and don't touch it. Just let, and you'll see the string go like that really slowly. The string will naturally stretch back to where it's supposed to be. So that's what I do with each string. I do the same thing, and I stretch them. I also do this, like that, like I'm playing and bending, and make sure that if I bend, it doesn't bend out of tune, all that sort of stuff. Right? This is all in a period of less than 5 minutes. Right? Then the guitar's starting to settle in. Now I play a tune on it, and I start playing it like I'm playing a show. You know what I mean? And like I may go. Playing all the strings, letting everything ring and all that, you know. See now that string's gone sharp because I did that thing with it. You see that? Yeah, my guitars don't go flat; they always go sharp. They're very excited. So that's what I do, and I bend them in and I stretch them. I changed these strings this morning, but the ones from the show last night, I put them on like 20 minutes before the show, and they would sound great, tuned well, and all that stuff. So,
Thank you.
you're welcome. Yes, sir.
Well, if it hadn't been said, last night y'all were extraordinary, both of you. We need to say that, and I'll tell you, I mean, I've heard Hendrix, I've been with the Dead, Joe Cocker and Mad Dog and Englishman, and I have not seen so much energy. I mean, both of you in your styles brought it home, brother. And
Thank you.
Just thank you so much.
Thank you, brother. Thank you very much. Bobby?
When you and John were playing in Studio B, it seemed to me like your guitars were not in tune with each other.
Yeah, when we played what?
Studio B?
Oh, Studio B?
Yeah.
Yeah.
You
Well,
and
I was trying to get John to tune to me. I'm not going to tell John. Well, actually, I did tell him. I said, Johnny, we're out of tune. And you know what was going on? I can tell you exactly what was going on. First of all, he's playing a nylon string. And the guitars are sitting there in the studio in air conditioning. We came out, picked up our guitars. My guitar was dead on. His was sharp. Why? It's nylon string. It's gonna be affected by the cold. So he'd spent time tuning it, and it was sitting there. So he naturally expected it to be in tune. But I could have told him, Johnny, it's air conditioning. It's going to go sharp, and that's exactly what happened. But I'm not a busybody. I'm not a grenade. It's his job to get it together. But when we started when we started playing, I said to him, Johnny, you're sharp. You know, oh, I am too. And then he heard it. You know. So I can tell with John, because he's a physicist and he's a high-thinking, scientific kind of guy, but yet dripping with mojo at the same time. It's an unusual character. And sometimes we've been talking about things that we're going to say or stories we're going to tell, and he'll forget the basics of how about we be in tune when we play. You know what I mean? The very basic of let's be in tune. Sometimes he'll forget that and just go launch straight into something, and I'll be like, holy shit. And I start compensating to tune to him because he's already in the song and I can see it, I can read him, you know? So that's just how it is. So, brother?
I heard tell that you tend to play with a light touch. Of course, last night you dispelled that rumor. But I also
he plays with a sort of light touch.
Yeah. I noticed you do a lot of dynamics where you'll play something and you'll bang a chord and
Yeah.
to mark the beat or whatever. It's a great
Yeah.
style.
Yeah.
Do you play with a light touch?
Yeah, I do. I play with all touches. What's right for the song is what I try to do. It's all about serving the music properly. You know, you don't want to play a ballad and hammer the crap out of it. You know what I mean? When I'm playing a tune, like, let me just say. See, you got me to demonstrate that, and now I'm having trouble with it. Because my guitar's going, what are you doing? You've already done this. So, a song like Rachel's Lullaby, my daughter Rachel, I wrote her a song because she loves Blackbird, right? Blackbird. Right? She loves that song so much. So when I wrote Rachel, he has a Rachel too. She's called Izzy, but she's a bit older. Rachel's 6. And so I wrote her this song, Rachel's Lullaby, and I play that song so gently, A, because it's a lullaby, but B, because that's the right way to play it. You mind if I just play this for you?
Not at all. You know, Carmen, I gotta tell you, enjoy this while you can, because my teenage daughter says, you know, Dad, it's not my kind of music, but you're very good at it.
Well, when my eldest daughter, who's now the mother of my 2 grandchildren, when she was about 5, I had her on the road with my band, and we were playing rock and roll music and all that. And then at the end of the show, we all put our instruments down and came to the front of the stage, and sang a cappella, shower the people you love with love, right? The audience just went nuts and loved it. And I came off stage and my daughter said, Dad, don't sing, it's embarrassing. Exactly, someone had their hand up here. Yes, sir.
Good morning, and thank you both very much.
Are you welcome?
Both of you are about my age. Maybe you're a little bit older, I don't know, sounds like maybe, but we're all around the same age.
Hey, I'm not that old.
Well, I have problems, now that I've retired, I play a lot. I probably play 3 or 4 hours a day, but I break it up. But I'm having problems with the wrist hurting me, like almost like carpal tunnel.
Really?
How do you overcome that? You guys must play a lot more than I do. Certainly you do, Tommy. How do you keep from getting injured?
I'm the luckiest guy alive. I have never had problems with my hands. I don't know why, but a lot of people get carpal tunnel. And when people, I don't know about Jorma, but when people ask me, you know, I get this carpal tunnel, I get repetitive, and they're wearing a brace, and they're, you know, my feeling is, if it's hurting you, then you must be doing something wrong. You're trying too hard. You know, not everybody realizes that you can make this instrument nice to play. You know, some people just buy a guitar off the shelf and that's the end of the story. And it comes to the shop with a factory setting, which is high. You know, so they get dedicated and they practice and all that. And they start getting pain in their arms, in their elbows, in their wrists, and all that sort of stuff, and wonder what it is. And it could be something as simple as just too much pressure.
I think that might be it, because I've not played with my amp at all. And with this guitar, depending on the venue that I'm in, I'm having to play really hard. So maybe if I try to amp the thing, you know,
well,
I might be able to play live.
I never practice with an amp either. I'm sure Jorma doesn't. We just play acoustic guitar. You know, when I practice, I just play acoustic guitar. And I very rarely practice on the guitars that I use on stage. I practice on guitars that are a little harder to play. So I build my strength. You know what I mean? I play like a Martin or a Gibson that I have at home that's a little harder to play. But this guitar that Jorma's playing here is a handmade guitar, and he's going to tell you about it in a second. But I played that guitar last night, and it's beautiful to play. You know?
Well, you're playing.
So before you sit down, what you need is Jorma's CBD products. You know, Tommy, you really are lucky. Now I'm lucky too, because I have a little bit of arthritis in my thumbs. They don't bend the way they used to. But that's okay. But I need to, you know, when I was younger, I didn't need to warm up. I need to warm up now. I didn't spend as much time as I would like to today because my hands cramp. And if that happens, then I'm gonna try. I was talking to my wife. I said I had some trepidation with that gig last night because we talked about it. The Ryman. My gosh, you're playing the Ryman. I haven't played a show in who knows how long, you know.
Yeah.
So the practicing that I do, and I play all the time, of course, and I play with my buddies at home and stuff like this. It's not like the guitar just sits in the case. It's not the same. So I've had to tune into the fact that some of the intensity that, for whatever reason, I will now call it bad technique if I paid more attention to my teachers when I was younger. You don't need that much pressure. You don't need to be grabbing things. I mean, whatever, even if you're doing bends or compound bends or whatever, there are ways to do it in efficient ways where you don't hurt yourself. And if there's something that I'm doing that's hurting me, I can't do it. You know, you just need to make, the deal. Anyway.
Thank you, buddy.
See a chiropractor.
Yeah.
See a chiropractor. Get him to adjust the wrists.
All right. See a chiropractor. Yes, young man.
So, thank you for that. You're the only one who feels that way. But a question for Jorma. You've been singing, some of these classic blues songs, for a long time. You still get the feeling out of it. I mean, how do you make a song that you've sung so many times have feeling? And how much of your prep, for performance is about the playing and how much of it is about the singing?
I don't play songs that I don't still have that feeling for. There's songs I've let go, and sometimes you come back to them later on. Like with this quarantine thing, you know, my wife and my pals and I up home, we did these free quarantine concerts for a year and a half. And I went back to a lot of songs that I hadn't played for years. I mean, sometimes you get lazy and you just go to your show or whatever it is, you know. But so I had a chance to look back at a lot of stuff, and I realized that sometimes my opinion changes about things. I don't want to do that song, it's a silly song, or it's corny, and all of a sudden it means something to me again. I don't play songs, no matter how many years I've still played, including Hesitation Blues, that don't somehow put me back in that place. You know, for me, there's nothing that evokes a time and a place, a memory than music. You know, remember Marcel Proust is about the seven smells, stuff like that. I don't agree with that. It's music, you know. Boom, you're there, you know what was happening in the world. And that happens to me with the songs that still mean something to me. So if I can't get that feeling from a song, then I'm just not gonna play it.
That's a good answer. It's truthful. Yeah. Johnny?
I heard from somebody that you refret brand new guitar. Why?
Me?
Yeah.
I refret guitars when the frets are worn out. Who told you that?
Somebody told me that you put bigger frets on, higher frets or something like that, and I was wondering.
It's good. You know what? This is what I love about the business we're in. The legends.
The geekiness of the legend.
The geekiness of the legends, yeah. So here's what happened. Joe Glazer, my dear friend, who's one of the great guitar repairers, builders, and all that in the world. He's right here in Nashville. He said to me one day, you know, with the amount of playing you do, maybe stainless steel frets might be good for you because you won't wear them out. And I said, all right, Joe, I'll take your advice, refret my guitar with stainless steel frets. And he did. And I can tell you that it really sounded like really singing. When I played single line stuff and hit that vibrato and all that, it sang like a voice. It was beautiful. But it took an entire month of touring and playing shows for my hands not to hurt. Like right in the middle of each finger, in the middle of my callus, it hurt every night because it was this different feeling, higher fret, all that, and I'm tearing into it, and I had sore hands for almost a whole month, right? But when I got used to it, I really liked it. But I wouldn't recommend it to anybody because all the other guitars that I have with the frets that came with them basically does the same thing. It's just not as high. But you have to find the same with guitar strings. You have to find which ones work for you, right? The same thing with frets. Some people like Gibson guitars, like Gibson electric guitars, came with those big wide frets, and they were beautiful to play. People love it, and all the bends were easier and all that stuff. And then you got like a Telecaster which has thinner frets, and then you got this acoustic guitar which has kind of medium frets. These are the original frets from when I got this guitar 10 years ago. So you just have to find what works for you. But if something's not working for me and I think it has potential and I'm excited about it, then I'll spend money and time on it to make it that way and see if it's better for me, you know? So, there you go. And things like, you know, when I found out that the bracing on a guitar, the thinner you can get it, the better. I got one of my guitars, I got in there and I sanded all the braces down and I did all that. It didn't sound any different. Nothing sounded, it's the same principle as that. The guy asked me the other day, he said, you've got holes in your feedback buster, and what does that do? And I said, absolutely nothing. It was just an experiment. We drilled holes in it, put it in to see what it did. It did nothing. You know what I mean? So, but you never stop trying. We guitar players are all, we're the same. We're always looking for the best sound we can get. That's why Jorma's playing a different guitar this time I see him. Last time I saw him, he was playing a Martin guitar, and he still sounded like this, but this is an even better sounding guitar, I think.
Yeah, I agree. And Martin made a Jorma model guitar.
Yeah.
I've got 3 of them. Serial number 1, number 2, and number 85. But that's another story. I'm a sick pup. But anyway, so yeah, they're great guitars. You know, they're great guitars. But I started out playing a Gibson J50, and mine was in 1958. I bought it in 1960. I paid $100 for it in Dayton, Ohio. And so this guy came to the camp a couple of years ago, and he had one of these guitars. It was made by this guy David Fleming, lives in Green, Iowa. And I looked at it, I thought it was a J35, and I picked it up. And it had that sort of J50, and I'm playing it. What is this thing? And I go and I realize it's not a Gibson. So I flipped out, of course. And Tom Feldman, the great blues guitar player from up in Minnesota, happened to know him, and he hooked me up with a guy. And I got to know him. And so it's a J35S guitar. It's not really a clone, but it's inspired by, and he just builds great guitars. But most importantly, it spoke to me.
Exactly.
That's the deal.
That's the deal, right?
It's just such a personal thing. And so I flipped out. So as you know, I have 2 of them.
Yeah.
And I have another one that made this sort of halfway between a J185 and a J200.
Yeah.
There are a lot of great builders out there.
There are.
A lot of great builders, and you just got to find the one that suits you, A, and that B, you can afford.
Exactly. We play that blues.
Oh yeah, sure.
Yeah. As Chet would say, why don't we play the one we rehearsed?
Is that a rehearsal? That Uncle Sam blues?
Yeah.
Yes, let's see. Well, now my question is, baby, you know I'm headed off for war. Question now, baby, you know I'm headed off for war. I'm gonna do some fighting. Good Lord only knows what for. Well, Uncle Sam ain't no woman. You know I sure can't take your man. Sam ain't no woman, babe. You know I sure can't take your man. Doing something I don't understand. questioning. You know I'm head off the wall. Questioning. You know I'm head off the wall. Won't have to break no kind of law. Good news, brother.
How good is that? Huh? Good.
Let's do another one done on poker.
Oh, sure, yeah. Let me just,
I have a request for Jorma to do this tune because I love it so much. It's a Roy Bookbinder song. David, you had your hand up?
I just had a quick question. You had mentioned people that come to hear, to listen. And all the years of playing bars, you got the guys playing pool, and the guys looking for chicks, and you got everything else, and the guys that just want to drink, and so you're like a jukebox standing there, and you're not really forced to be great, you're just forced to be there, and you try to be as good as you can, but I'm just thinking that in a situation like last night, you had all these great players and all the people, and that you're really pumped up to be as good as you can get.
Right.
I'm imagining that, and I'm thinking the difference of staying in a bar situation again with the smoke all over the place and the people screaming and yelling like the song that he just did. Nobody could appreciate that in a bar like they could in a setting where they come to listen to the artist.
Exactly.
And
Well, that's why we both felt so grateful to be playing in a place like we were last night. You know, that's your dream situation. How can I get myself into a situation where I can play in a place where people pay good money to come and have a comfortable seat, and the sound is great, the lights are great, the atmosphere is great, and there's nothing to compete against with, you know, all that. How can I get myself to that stage? That's the question, you know. And really, it's about you have to build it yourself. You know, no one's going to do it for you. You have to build it yourself. And the problem with most people is they do not know where they belong. They don't have a vision of where they belong. You know, where a person who's got talent, who's playing and all that, but you know, they're basically very encouraged by their family and friends, and they got something, but they'll come to me and say, how do I get to blah, blah, blah? And I'm like, where do you see yourself? What do you want to do? You know? Well, I'd like to be doing what you're doing. Okay, then you have to start doing this, and I can explain it to you, right? But it's a matter of where do you think you belong? You know, most people will play at home and they're so encouraged by all their friends and all that, but they're afraid to step out of that comfort zone. And that's where life starts, is outside your comfort zone, you know? So it's really, you know, you've got to build it yourself. No one's going to do it for you.
You know, I think also, Tommy, I think about, you know, we're down the road a ways with that stuff.
Yes.
We're able to have this conversation, but you know, when you're a kid and you start out and you get to play and somebody pays you to do it, it's unbelievable.
Yeah.
I mean, I remember Jack and I, we got in our first band, Jack, my buddy Jack Cassidy, great bass player, but he was the lead guitar player in the band. I had a J45 that my dad bought, and I didn't have a pickup on it. I had a microphone from his Wallensack tape recorder tucked under my shirt. And that was my guitar, and I was the singer of the band, and Jack played guitar and all this stuff. And our bass player, he didn't even have a bass. He had a Gretsch Country General with a mute on it, and so he just played bass stuff on it. I mean, you were just simple paid to do stuff. And we made like $20 and went to the Hot Shops, which was our local drive-in back in D.C., and bought hamburgers and stuff. I mean, it was an epiphany. It was a great moment, you know. And so, I mean, coming up, just getting to play, and whether people listen or they don't listen, you get to a point where you count on that, because that's part of your story.
Yeah.
But that's not always part of the story. I mean, some of the part, like, I mean, back to talking about, you know, the people are going crazy, you just crank it up and go for it.
Yeah.
And in that moment, that was satisfying up to a point.
Exactly.
But then the time comes when it's not satisfying anymore.
Right. Yeah.
Anyway.
Yeah, because I think what happens is as we grow, as our mind expands and as things happen and people we meet and possibilities come into our lives, we have greater needs and greater desires and greater levels of excellence that we're aiming at, you know? Yeah, brother?
So again, like, great show last night. I
Thank you.
actually teared up a couple times, as usual, when I see you come. When I see you live, I always tear up. But I have a question about, like, inspiration and, like, staying motivated and staying inspired. I think it piggybacks off of what you were talking about. So the question is for both Jorma and Tommy. When we're undergoing certain hardships of life, maybe they're not musical related, maybe they're, like, financially related. How can we, like, stay motivated, and, like, what advice do you have for someone who might be struggling, those kinds of situations?
I'm gonna jump in quickly, because I was sure, you just gotta love what you do. You just gotta love it. It has to be important. I mean, you know, and you know, without being overly dramatic about it, because it's not always the case, but at some point, you know, like a family life came late to me in life, because it just didn't work before that, because the music came first. And I'm not saying that's a good thing, and it's not that way for everybody, it's not. But whatever your space that you inhabit, if you want to be an artist, that has to be the most important thing in your life. And it's, you know, like I said, it sounds overly dramatic for somebody like me to say, but it's really true, and you know what I mean. You just got to get in there, and you can't care what people think about it, and you have to have confidence in your own mojo and just see where it leads you.
Yeah. If I sat here and thought about what people think of me, I'd crack like the dog that gets hit on the head with a hammer and all cracks and falls to pieces. That's what would happen. I'd fall to pieces. But what other people think of me is none of my business. You know.
Yep.
I have to stay the course and be dedicated to this and play for all the right reasons. And I believe that I'm put here on earth the same as Jorma is to do. He does what he does. We don't want him to try and be, you know, Joe Satriani or whatever. We want to see Jorma being Jorma. That's it. That's his calling. You want to see Tommy being Tommy, and I can't be anything else. I can't be as good as this guy or that guy and all that sort of stuff. I have to be happy. I have to find serenity in being myself, right? And this is how I play, this is what I know. And you may be the professor from some college and come and say, well, he doesn't read music. How can he possibly understand blah, blah, blah? You know what I mean? Well, I'm sorry I didn't tick that box for you, but I'm afraid I don't go around ticking boxes. I just do what I feel. My instincts are telling me what to do. You know, what I have to do is get all my principles and things I stand on in the right place. You know what I mean? There has to be integrity before anything, you know? So that's the most important thing, you know? And the thing that people forget is that this is music. This is not a sport. I'm not in competition with somebody, you know? Musicians, you know, there are very rarely that you'll meet someone who will say, I can play faster than you, you know? So what? Who cares? You know? It's a, you know, the moment that I meet up with people that I love and respect, like Jorma or Frank Vignola or Martin Taylor or George Benson or whatever, the first thing we do is we want to play together, because when we play together, we come together spiritually, you know, and it's our two voices come together kind of thing, you know, and that's what we love doing, and it's not a matter of, you know, it's a great joy for me to hear Jorma do what he does there, and then for me to find a place to not get in the road of it, but to bring something to it that maybe will enhance it if in any way at all, you know? So it's really about being switched on to each other.
You know, and I gotta say, you know, a guy like you, Tommy, that has such immense mastery of the guitar, you go a lot of different places, and you have a lot of different tastes in music and stuff like that, but you always play the right stuff. And I remember years ago when you came to the Fur Peace Ranch and you were teaching, we were in that little workshop with that little tiny stage and stuff. And we have the little student thing, a little open mic and stuff like that, and you're playing with some of the kids, and everything was just like pristine, it was just the right stuff. And that's really important because, you know, it's not, well, there's no other way to say this. I mean, there's a lot of swinging dick stuff in guitar playing, and it's not, you know what I mean? And it's not musical, it's just not musical, you know? And the song requires what the song requires, and you always serve the song.
Oh, I try.
Yeah.
Thank you, brother.
Yeah.
I appreciate that. Yes, sir.
Jorma, when did you discover Tommy? And Tommy, when did you discover Jorma?
I can tell you exactly when I discovered it. When Chet passed, and I was watching CMT back when they actually used to play music on CMT. and there you were, and you were playing, and Vanessa and I looked at him and said, I love this guy, we gotta get him to the ranch, and we did.
Oh, that's it.
Yeah.
Thanks, brother.
Yeah.
Well, I had so many great times at the Fur Peace. That was one of the highlights of the last 20 years of my life.
It's a good time.
Yeah, absolutely. Fun stuff.
There was a time at Fur Peace Ranch on the road. It was my first time at the camp, and we were doing a performance. I'm sure you were there. And you called me as the first one up on stage, and I performed. I did Ruby's Eyes, and I had tuned that silly 20 times. And I got up on stage and I played, and it sounded great. I did it perfectly. I got on stage, and at the end of the night, after everybody had gone up, you said, "What's the first thing you do before you come on stage?" And I said, "Tune my guitar." And you said, "Exactly," and you walked off. And I thought, this is like a Tommy lesson personified, you know. I thought, oh my God, I thought it was in tune, and I asked like 14 other people, "Did you hear it out of tune?" And they said, "We thought it was in tune." And I thought, is there any way to develop that ear that you have that none of us had?
I wish I could.
Because it was in tune with my tuner, but you said the other night too that the tuner says it's in tune, but I don't think it's in tune.
Yeah.
Is there any way to develop that?
Sometimes there's, you know, this is the same tuner that I have on stage, and it's a simple tuner. Red is out of tune, green is in tune. Simple as that, right? It's not perfect, but it's pretty close. But there are days when I'm in total argument with it. It says I'm in tune, and I play a chord like I can hear that it's just not right, and I don't, you know, it's just my ear.
But there's no way to really develop that.
I don't know. I'm still developing it. I'm still trying to look for being perfectly in tune. When I tune and I feel that the guitar is really spot on, then I test it. And what I test it with is shapes that I'm going to use in songs. Like, for instance, an A chord, right? That sounds pretty close, but and now it's nice up there, isn't it? So I've got.
So Tommy, I got a question for you since you did this. What do you think about like fight-nized guitars or you know, because the guitars are inherently out of tune all the time anyway. I mean, people always approach me with stuff, fan frets guitars, this and that, and I go, look, I spent my life learning how to play a guitar that's inherently out of tune. But there are other approaches. Do you have any thoughts about this?
I haven't played a guitar with those fan frets and all that I felt was any better in tune than this guitar.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yep.
So sometimes there's a lot of hoo-ha,
Better mousetrap.
Yeah.
Right.
But, you know, it depends what people need. But, you know, you sound incredibly in tune in that guitar. And that guitar, the design of it, it's from the 20s and 30s, right? So it's all, we know it's already working. The same thing with this, it's got a straight saddle, right? So people are going, you've got to have a compensated saddle that goes like this, and this one's dead straight, and this guitar is dead.
Actually, so is this one, except for the second
Exactly.
string,
Yeah, it's as close as you can get it, you know what I mean?
The other thing was, do either of you ever get sharp pains in the tips of your fingers when you're playing certain chords? Like it might not happen for like an hour, and then it might happen the first 5 minutes. I'll get like a nail is going through the tip of your finger.
Really? Ah, I don't know.
Jorma, you don't get that, Jorma?
No.
I'm sorry?
You don't get that either?
No.
Sure.
I probably will now, but.
CBD.
Jorma, who are your mentors today?
Oh gosh, there's so many of them on so many different levels. I think Tommy is one of my mentors in some ways. Not that I play anything like him at all, but his passion, his attention to detail, that's the kind of stuff that I care about today. Tone is so important to me. You know, I'm not a notey player, so I need to make each note really count and stuff like that. So the guys that I listen to that just have that great tone, that's the kind of, and I'm drawing a complete blank right now. Of course, I know you're looking for a set, you know, listen to those guys, and my mind's not working that way today. But anytime I hear a guy, and it doesn't matter whether he's a known player or not, you hear that tone, you know, and just and timing and phrasing and stuff like real simple basic stuff, you know. I need the song to speak to me, you know. In this day and age, there's people doing all this stuff on the guitar that would have been unknown to a guy like me 20 years ago, much less when I was a kid, you know. And so when you think about that kind of stuff, it just, again, it comes back to the music, you know. And again, we're talking about art. It's a matter of taste. You like something, that's great. I'm not going to argue with you about that. But for me, I like space. I like space in the sound I'm looking for. Which is kind of like this next song when we get around to playing this.
My mentors are people who have enriched my life in more ways than music, that's for sure. You know, I look back on Ray Charles, and he just astounds me, you know, because every time he sings something, I feel like I'm connected to something greater. As soon as I hear Ray Charles sing, I know that there's something else going on out there. And people like Muhammad Ali, you know, I look back at that guy, and he was a great example of someone who stood their ground, who said, this is who I am, and this is what I do. If you don't like it, I don't care, because I'm on this track. This is the way I'm going, and yeah, so many people are mentors to me, and I just love humanity, and I love the goodness in people. That's what I look for, the goodness inside people, and that inspires me. All right, Jorma's going to do this tune. I love this song, and this was also on his album. That came out. That was like the last time I was at Bird Pieces when that album came out.
Yeah, right. Yeah. And then, of course, you made Roy really happy. And, so our buddy Roy Bookbinder wrote the song we're going to do, and when I heard him play it, you know, guys like me and we've learned stuff from people we consider to be the masters over the years, like the Reverend Gary Davis was amused to me, even though I don't really play anything like him at all. Anyway, so Roy played the song, and I went, man, boy, that's a great song. Where'd you learn it? He had this hurt look on his face. I wrote it.
Well, I have to tell you this, that when I heard this song, I said, oh, Reverend Gary Davis, wow, this is so beautiful. And Jorma said, that's a Bookbinder song. It floored me, couldn't believe it. So it just goes to show you that anything's possible.
And totally, yeah.
You sound in tune, brother.
Don't jinx me now. No, but before a minute ago, I probably shouldn't say this because now it's probably gonna go flat, but my tuner said that the first string was in tune, and I knew it wasn't. It was sharp.
Yeah, see that?
I probably shouldn't open my big mouth. All righty. Drop D, the king of We'll put him in the ground, 6 feet down. Do you hear that coffin sound? You can weep, baby, you can moan. That old boy ain't never coming home. Another man done a full go round. Another man done a full go round. Tell your tale, laugh and joke. Ponder all day about the words she spoke. You can run, you can hide. Death come creeping up by your side. Another man done a full go round. Another man done a full go
Thanks so much. I've had a good time this morning. You saw things you won't see too often this morning, I can tell you. So, thanks, Billy. Thanks to Steve for doing the sound for us today. Thank you.